Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is December the 11th. I feel like I'm living in this weird, crazy world where I just don't have any trust in the normal systems that you should be able to trust. And yesterday was not any better. It didn't help me at all. I went through this moment where I started catching your comments online, and I started getting comments on Spotify and YouTube and emails directly to our public email address. Which if you need to reach out to us, it's not like our personal channel, by the way, guys. This is not the way like you're like, hey, I got a personal question about them. Please don't do that. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to answer those. But info@kyleseraphin.com if you notice a problem or if you see something or you got a guest to suggest. And contact information is relevant, by the way. But anyway, I got some emails and they're like, hey, dude, your podcast didn't post for the second day in a row. What's going on? And I think that for those of you that are just catching this, maybe you're catching this really weird and late. I'm going to be very vigilant about it today. We had some real strange shenanigans go down on the back end. I published the Brony Bomber podcast, which was that was Tuesday's podcast, and it didn't publish. It went to draft, and it just sat there all day. And then I went and I was able to push one more button, and then it went out, and it went out in the late afternoon. So some of you guys got that podcast really late, and that's really frustrating to me. And obviously, that's like financially not great for us because we actually want you to be able to listen to it, and that's how we make money. But more importantly, like I actually thought that was a really important show. And the stuff that we talked about there was highly relevant. So if you watched on YouTube and it's one of our biggest episodes we've ever done on YouTube, awesome. We really appreciate you guys there. Same story on Rumble. It was a very strong performing. Also was pretty proud of the thumbnail, if I do say so myself. But it just didn't show up. And so, you know, one time that could have been me. I could have screwed it up. I'm fallible. I had a lot of things going on that day. We did 8 hours of interviews, so things happen. I think I talked about it yesterday morning. And then yesterday's was really, really weird. And in fact, I wasn't going to lead with this, but I think I am going to lead with this because I'm fixated by this. It's bizarre. I went looking for the podcast after I got comments for the second day in a row that it was gone. And I don't attribute to malice what I cannot actually lean into malice. I'm just a really skeptical guy right now that things are going the way that you might expect them to go. So that's kind of bizarre. When we go over to KyleSeraphinShow.com, which is the Spotify address. By the way, I upload to Spotify. And then if you listen on Apple, if you listen to iHeartRadio or Pod Addict or Podbean or anywhere else, those are called RSS feeds. So we punch it out to all those places. But Spotify is where it lives. It's where it's hosted. And so if it doesn't go out properly to Spotify, it's gone. All right. So that's just the background. And yesterday, I verified. I got the message. It said, we're processing your episode, and then it said your episode has been published. So we get two things. One, when I hit yes, send it forward, I get an email that says it's been properly uploaded, and we're working through the back end of it, and then it'll be available shortly. And then when it's actually available, I get a notification. It's like an email that I delete every day. So here's what you see if you go to KyleSeraphin.com. You see this one, but this is from the evening. And there's the Brony Bomber one, which was sitting in draft. And I want to show you something because this is what it did yesterday, which is very unusual and weird. So if you go into the top results is December 10th. That was yesterday's podcast, 110 minutes long. I really need to start cutting down on my time. I know you guys your time is valuable. And we scroll down to episodes, and what do we see? If you're listening right now and you're not on Spotify or Rumble or on YouTube, you're missing out on seeing this. But I'll prove to you right now, here's the December 10th episode from yesterday. And here's the first time that I published it. And I want you to just look real squint. January of 1970 is when that episode went live. It backdated it to December 31st of 1969. I wasn't even alive in 1969. That's really weird. That's a really weird thing to find out, that they decided to go ahead and backdate our episode. And what that did is that put it at the bottom of the stack, right? Because the podcast started in late 22. And so it took it back 40, 50 years prior, 56 years before today's date. That's really strange to me. So anyway, it got buried. So there's 2 episodes that have the same name and have the same content, but one of them was actually accessible to any of you. If you go to the normal look, it's just going to show up as the top episodes. So here's your episodes, and they show up in order like you'd expect. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is the most recent. After today's episode, you'll find the Thursday one there. Anyway, that's odd. I don't know what that means. I don't know why that was an encoding issue, but it was. So if you've been wondering what the hell is going on, that's what's going on. And maybe it's because we're touching on hot topics. Maybe it's because people from the mainstream media are starting to pay attention to what we're doing. I hear that members of Congress are hearing what we're saying. We don't have the biggest audience, but we punch way above our weight when it comes to impact on this podcast. So I won't ever have the claims like the fastest growing conservative podcast, or the greatest podcast of all time. What I'll tell you is that the things we're talking about here are relevant to people who pay attention, and it's catching the eyes and the ears of people who need to hear it. So thank you for all of you that are listening. Here you are. There's our chat. If you're watching on the screen, you can see there you are, folks. All of you are making this thing real. And so very appreciative for your attention span. And I would very much appreciate if you send a copy of maybe the Brony Bomber episode to a friend. Let them listen to it. Let them make their own mind up, because we're starting to change the minds in the mainstream media, even to the point where people are reaching out to me behind the scenes, and whether they're staffers for a member of Congress, or whether they're part of the the main contingent of the 3-letter, not agencies, but 3-letter mainstream media outlets. They're hearing what we're saying. So we're going to talk about, that was a bunch of administrative stuff, but we're going to talk about a handful of topics today, so let me kind of lay them out for you. The United States has seized an oil tanker, and the FBI was part of it. I have no idea what that's all about or why that would be. We'll talk about how excited Patel was about doing tactical cool guy stuff. The House has passed the National Defense Authorization Act, which they do every year, and there's a ton of money in there, and they passed it overwhelmingly, so we'll talk about that. Charlie Kirk's murder suspect, or the man alleged to have killed Charlie Kirk, is going to make his first in-court appearance, I think, ever. So we'll talk about the story there and what it means and what it doesn't mean, and why I think it's a little bit of a different scenario that went on in the so-called Brony Bomber case that I'm calling it now, only because it's not to make fun of the guy. It's more to poke fun at the stupidity of the FBI that's gone after it. The Senate is now debating a healthcare thing, which is the worst possibility. I think the government getting involved in healthcare is always terrible. We're going to talk about racism. We're going to talk about Somalis. We're going to talk about how people who are Somali that used to be proud of America are now not proud of America, and the overwhelming messaging that's trying to make white people feel bad about living in America. I actually think that's kind of an info op, if you will. And I think that the people that they're trying to appeal to, they're going to drive them the wrong way. You're going to drive them into the arms of the Nick Fuentes types, and, I think Nick Fuentes is funny, so I'm going to play some of his clips from Piers Morgan, who came off like a posh British wuss. And I don't think anybody empathizes with that. And if you do, you're not going to be turned away from Nick Fuentes. If you were interested in Nick Fuentes, you might actually go and go, Nick Fuentes sounds actually kind of reasonable compared to this idiot. So there's that. And then lastly, let's do Epstein stuff. Let's do a little recap about why we have a credibility loss for the guys that are running our main agencies. And so whether they're seizing Venezuelan tankers, or they're trying to catch the murderer of Charlie Kirk, or they're claiming that they've got the pipe bomber right now, all of this stuff actually goes back to this loss of faith and trust that happened when Bongino and Patel stepped out in front of Fox News and told people, he killed himself. I've seen the video. He killed himself. You remember that? That was all about the Epstein file thing. So that's what's happening very shortly. I'm going to do a sponsor read for our friends over at Silent, and they are my friends because I like what they do. And I've actually got their bag sitting right here. It normally sits right behind me, but I wanted to actually show it on the full screen. So again, if you're not listening on one of the video platforms, you're missing out on seeing this thing. It's a really neat bag, first of all. And if you're looking to get a guy who's somewhat like me, maybe has a beard, maybe likes guns, maybe likes to do outdoor stuff, it's not a cheap purchase, but it is freaking great. It's got all these neat pockets. It's got this daisy chain, which is kind of recessed, but I use it to actually carry a selfie type pole or a camera pole. It's got some nice padded stuff up here in the front that allows you to get in and put some sunglasses or maybe some kind of an optical thing. I keep a camera in here so the lens doesn't get scratched, but it's soft and padded like a velvet, which is cool. And then check this out, because this is always the neatest part for me. It's got these little magnetic hooks that holds onto a sleeve that will hold your phone. It's got another one in the back here for a much bigger sleeve, which will hold laptops, tablets, take your pick. It'll hold my full-size MacBook Pro if I need to take the show on the road. It's got a middle pocket here and an organizer that's built in that'll hold all your clothes for like a whole weekend. I've taken this with me, and I could have done a mobile show from a hotel And I was able to go on Timcast and carry all my toiletries and all my normal stuff for like a 2-day, 3-day turnaround trip. Really lightweight, easy bag. And of course, it's also stopping government tracking. So that doesn't suck. All right. If you guys are interested in trying to keep the government out of your business and you recognize that your mobile device, that your electronics that you carry every day are in fact a tracking system, and you want to have government agencies and big tech and corporate data brokers and cyber criminals all fighting for a piece of your digital footprint and failing, then check out Silent. It's slnt.com/KYLE. The bag I just showed you is the E3 Everyday Faraday bag. It's like 3 products in one. It's a carrying bag, and it's 2 different sized Faraday kits, which you can remove or you can keep in there. And they're very easy to use. You literally open them up, drop your phone in the Faraday case, and then you shut off wireless signals writ large. Cell phone is going to have cellular and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and GPS and RFID and near-field communications and whatever else is coming in the next iterations. If it goes out using radio, it gets shut down. And that means that nobody can track you. That means that nobody can access the phone, and that means that you're not leaving any breadcrumbs about where you've been. Special operations use this. I bet you the HRT guys had to bag up their phones before they went and took a Venezuelan tanker. Same story if you're working as an agent and you're running sources. If you're in law enforcement, you guys know the value of these kind of things. And they don't look crazy like a guy wrapping their phone up in tinfoil and dropping it into an ammo can, which is what I did when I was in the FBI. It's a much more elegant solution. It might be cheaper to have the ammo can, but it certainly takes up a ton of space, and it looks crazy when you go through the airport. So these things look great, and they function well, and you guys can check them out at slnt.com/KYLE. Save yourself 15% with the promo code Kyle when you check out, and if you drop your phone in that Silent Faraday sleeve, you just drop off the grid, things go silent, the outside world stops bothering you, you're invisible, and more importantly, maybe your family might get to see you for a little bit. You get to come up from the digital war that we're all fighting. At least that's my experience. My wife is like, Faraday bag? Is it time? It is time. All right, let's do today's program, and here we go. I had to keep my own counsel. I kept my own counsel yesterday, and I took a phone call from someone that I have not said nice things about historically because I just don't think nice things. But I have this rule, and it kind of reminds me of what went on yesterday in our program talking about the mission set and forgetting what you're all about. One of the things that I have as a mission is to always challenge my own assumptions. And I hope you guys are doing the same thing. If you believe something is true and new evidence is presented or you're offered new evidence to consider it. Do that thing for yourself. I always do. I call it the Ryan Riley rule here. I don't have a lot of rules, but this is one of them. This is one of my personal rules, and you guys can call it anything else. You know what I'm talking about. You have a preconceived notion of someone or something. You've got some idea of something that has been from outside looking, and you haven't personally evaluated the situation. Usually it's people. If I saw somebody on social media and I was like, that person sucks. I hate them. I don't like the way they talk. I don't like the way that they look. I don't like what they have to say. I bet we couldn't agree. I have to remember that there are people that go to my church that if I met them on Sunday coming out of Mass, we would get along famously. We would share the fact that we both have kids. We all drive cars. We've got all these problems, blah, blah, blah. And they're all similar, whether it be affordability or whether it be housing or whether it be grocery prices or whether it be that we're worried our kids are not going to have the best future. And we look at America, we don't see the right road to correct it the same way, but doggone it, we see that there's some things that are missing from our childhood. And if we don't take those into consideration, maybe we just think that our assumptions are correct. And so anyway, I reaffirmed the Ryan Riley rule yesterday, which is that Ryan Riley is a guy who writes for NBC, and he shows up on their television sometimes as well. And Ryan's a really nice guy. And he wrote a not particularly nice thing about me when he first started off because he didn't know me. And I think he's gotten to know me and vice versa. And, I told him the other day, I was like, I've reaffirmed the Ryan Riley rule and I found another person that I'm not mad at anymore. And I should have been more cautious about my opinion. And he was like, oh, so we're not exclusive, which is funny. That's funny. People will surprise you if you let them. So there's that. You know what doesn't surprise me is a thirsty FBI director. There's no other way to say it. I had another person from a newspaper reach out and say, yo, did Steve Friend really get reinstated to the FBI after saying that these guys are so thirsty for daddy's approval or some variation thereof? I go, yeah, he sure did. Steve Friend did. And then in order to prove that he was correct, the thirstiest thirsty thing happened. So I'm going to lead with the story that we would normally put at the end of the thing, right? Whatever's on the thumbnail is usually the last story we talk about. That's kind of the way that we set up the show. Doesn't have to be that way, but it just turns out often we are. How about this one? The United States has seized a freaking oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, Trump says. Also, Kash Patel says on social media, I saw it yesterday and I was like, what in the actual God's green earth? Why do we have the FBI seizing oil tankers? And then I went like, oh, because they suck at the Epstein files. They grabbed the wrong guy for the bomber case. And they look ridiculous in the way that they were presenting the Charlie Kirk murder solution. So yeah, of course they would go grab this. And also, nothing more cool for a guy who really, really, really wants to be a cool guy than letting the FBI's tactical boner out of its underwear. Is that can I say that? I think that's what I'm gonna say. HRT is the FBI's Ferrari. And they don't actually have a function nearly as much as we pay for it. We pay about $40 million a year for the hostage rescue team program. And they're legit studs. So if you're a former HRT guy or you're a current HRT guy and you happen to be listening to this, I think you guys are studs. I know what it takes to go through that selection. I've got a buddy that made it physically through Delta Force selection. He wasn't picked up because he's probably not the right personality type that they wanted. There's a certain thing. But he physically made it through Delta Force selection. If you know anything about it, go read the unit, go read some of the other stuff about it. I can't remember what, is it Eric Haney's book? I think it's a pseudonymously named. Anyway, Delta Force selection is famously insanely hard. It's based on the British SAS selection, also famously hard. And SF selection is no cakewalk, as far as I can tell. I didn't go through it, but I got friends who did. I went through the Air Force thing, and that wasn't particularly easy. We washed out a lot of really capable, super studly dudes. So I believe, knowing a couple of HRT guys, having worked for a former HRT guy who was a Ranger Battalion officer and who was a real physical, just a freaking stud, and a humble stud at that. Like, HRT is pretty awesome. But I'm not sure what the hell they're doing other than like everybody wants to get a fast rope in for work. This is a dangerous thing. People die on fast ropes. People have died from FBI's HRT doing fast ropes, doing training for this kind of stuff. So why the hell they decided to go seize this tanker? I'm kind of belaboring it only because it's so weird. It's such a weird thing for us to have spent our time. I feel like that may be one of the more common words I use. But here you go. Here's video footage, unclassified, on screen, Black Hawk helicopter inbound to tanker, ropes away, and operator deployed. There you go. 1, 2, 4, 8, night vision on. I think this must be a dark shot. They must be coming in at night because you can see the nods are down. And they're taking a tanker and they're going to show them doing a nightmarish amphibious clear. I mean, this is what guys train for. I mean, this is what these dudes woke up early every morning and did their work to get there. And so they seized it. But why? Let's just read this story because it's so strange. The United States military, along with the FBI, the FBI refers to the military as partners. I'm pretty sure this was mostly a military op, but just for whatever it's worth, the FBI does have its own Blackhawks. And you'll notice the doors on the Blackhawk. I don't know that I've ever been in a military Blackhawk that had doors or that they were closable. And whenever I was in an FBI Blackhawk, they did close the doors. So just, whatever. Just little data points there. U.S. military seized an oil tanker off Venezuela. President Trump told reporters on Wednesday as his team and his administration continues to escalate military activity in the region. As you probably know, we seized a tanker off the coast of Venezuela. It was a large tanker, very large, largest one ever seized, actually. That's the most Donald Trump thing you could ever say. It was a large tanker. How large was it? It was very large. In fact, the largest one ever seized, actually. That's the quote. Oh, it's so good. Donald Trump, I skimmed this earlier and I didn't see that he actually said that. It's just like he's a parody of himself sometimes. He didn't provide any details about the seizure, but he said it was an interesting day. Yeah, I bet it was interesting because now we've got the FBI director out there talking about how they're grabbing oil tankers. Pam Bondi wrote something on X. Kash Patel did as well. Everybody went out there and got a little piece of the action on this thing. I'm just running the B-roll that they declassified. This is from Kash Patel's Twitter feed for anybody who wants to know, hey, why do you have video footage from the freaking tanker seizure? That's why. Multiple years, the oil tanker has been sanctioned by the United States due to its involvement in illicit oil shipping networks supporting foreign terrorist organizations. Guys, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big fan as doing a cool fast rope exercise as everybody, and I'm pretty I'm pretty okay with just like poking other countries as much as it matters, but like are we doing pirating? That's what the chat is asking. Have we now stepped into the realm where the United States is grabbing oil tankers as combatants, and we're sending in our tier 1 assets from the FBI to grab it? This is so strange. People in the video seen rappelling from the helicopter. I remember the United States Coast Guard said 2 officials and a law enforcement official. Really? They claimed that this was the Maritime Security Response Teams, elite forces who specialize in maritime counterterrorism and counter-narcotics and are trained in high-risk boarding. Okay, so why the hell is the FBI out there talking about it? Why did I pull that from the FBI director's video footage feed? And I don't know. I really don't get it. It blows my mind that this is where we're at right now. But that's where we're at. The Venezuelan foreign minister called it a blatant theft and an act of international piracy. I don't really care about Venezuela, and I don't really love the Venezuelan government in any way, shape, or form. But I kind of got to agree with the guy. He said the true reasons for the prolonged aggression against Venezuela have been laid bare. This is not migration. This is not drug trafficking. This is not democracy. This is not human rights. This has always been about our natural wealth, our oil, our energy, and the resources that belong exclusively to the Venezuelan people. Guys, Trump administration, you're kind of making me agree with this guy. That's actually not a bad take. This is coming from NBC News that I'm seeing right here, but good Lord. And this is in the wake of them bombing boats, which hard for me to be particularly interested one way or another about the Venezuelan drug traffickers. But grabbing an oil tanker is kind of a next level move, even if it's the big. Let me go back and read his quote again. It's so good. It was a large tanker, very large, actually, largest one ever seized, actually. You can see Trump doing the hand pumpkin thing that Steve Friend always talks about, you know, and he's like kind of excited. He goes like small pumpkin, big pumpkin. How big is the pumpkin? This was a very big pumpkin, the largest oil tanker. So we've led off with a goofy story, and it feels bad. And like, why are they doing this? Really, seriously, why are they doing this stuff right now? For me, it goes to this story, the Epstein story, the story about where's the files and day one. And even before Kash Patel was read in, I saw someone actually quoted a Charlie Kirk tweet of all things from February 17th of 2025. And Kirk had the letter from Pam Bondi to the incoming, not yet sworn in Kash Patel. And she was talking about the New York field office and how the FBI continues to exist in the same format. And they've only given her 200 pages and she's looking for the whole thing. And then they came in and we're like, got it. Okay. Now the guys got confirmed. February 17, 2025, Kyle Seraphin. I'm still in the Patel camp. I'm a little bit nervous, though, because I've seen some of the ways that he's been acting, and he didn't pick my deputy director. Didn't have to be mine, but he didn't pick a deputy director that made sense. And then we get this stuff. And this is right after they got in there. They were like, hey, what would be the best way that I can tank my credibility with the American people? Perhaps what I could do is go in and say exactly the opposite of what I said on podcasts for the last decade. Right?
My comments were clear. I'm not paid for my opinions anymore. I work for the taxpayer now. I'm paid on evidence. That's it. The evidence we have in our files clearly indicates that it was, in fact, a suicide. We do have video. It's not the greatest video in the world. I don't want to set expectations on fire. However, the video does show in that specific block that he goes in, made a phone call. You'll see 12 hours of guards going to basically check on him, come back. You'll see no one really comes out in that bay, in that area, than him. There's no one in there. When you combine that with the other evidence we will be releasing in the coming weeks, we're still finalizing some of the products. I think it's pretty clear.
I think it's pretty clear that when you talk about the videos and the way that they're finalized and the way that the FBI, what they mean is they're going to edit them so that they look like this, which looks like a guy from a 1970s video. This is the pipe bomber, maybe adjusting a bra strap. I don't know, sitting there at the bench, getting ready to drop off the pipe bomb, we're told. That's 7:52 p.m. outside the DNC, which is at Canal Street Southeast and South Capitol Street Southeast. Weird. You'll notice that there's also a shot of the road at the top of this video. This is a looped video, so you're going to see it a few times. And what you don't see is a lot of traffic, right? There's just not a lot of cars driving around at 8-ish p.m. on January 5th, 2021. This is mid-COVID. And so we're supposed to believe that a black autistic guy who wears headphones for sensory issues was voluntarily wearing a duck-billed mask and a baseball cap and a tight-fitting hoodie that's not loose-fitting and was wearing some premium Nike AstroTurf shoes that are in the same colors as a particular professional soccer team that comes out of Columbus, Ohio, and then was also maybe adjusting his shoulder. He was doing the shoulder adjustment, or maybe he was adjusting his bra strap, which would be weird for a man to be wearing a bra strap. It'd be way more reasonable for a female to be adjusting a bra strap. It'd be way more feasible for someone who wore those shoes to be like an athletic type person. Doesn't really move like an autistic person. Showed this video to a neighbor on the street. Direct quote, "I've never seen Cole move like that." It seems like when you hear Dan Bongino talking about, we got to get this video prepped out to put it out to you. Are you going to downgrade the footage? Are you going to just leave out like a minute or two, like where it's really critical so that people can ask more questions? Yeah, they did, right? The Epstein story. It's like, what did he say? He said, "I'm paid for facts and not my opinion." One would think that he has hard facts. Then he releases a video that crushes his credibility. Do you think he reviewed all that video? I don't. Remember, this is how it started.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
The energy differential there. Again, I've highlighted it to Alex Jones. I'm highlighting it to you. When people feel confident about what they say, then they speak comfortably and they just say from their heart or they say from their mind, and they reach into the fact patterns that they're holding on to and they address them. Could be opinion. Some of it's going to be fact. Kind of a mixed bag, right? That's how normal people talk. Some things you know are the things that I am interpreting from the evidence that we can all agree is out there. And then there's people who are doing corporate talking points. I watched not as much Dan Bongino show as many of you did. By the way, I love this picture. Somebody created this with Grok or something like that. It's the bug eyes, and the weird thing. And the story is, and the reason why this is relevant again today, thirsty videos of grabbing a tanker. We're going to get the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin in court for the first time in person, which many people have a lot of feelings about, but I don't think they're based on the actual story. So we'll kind of hit that for a bit. And then pipe bomber thing is ongoing. And now here's where it all started as far as the questions, which is that what the hell was going on with the Jeffrey Epstein declassification? Why didn't you guys come out day one? That was the claim. Patel, Bongino, guys beat this drum. They rode that wave all the way into that job. And then they actually acted very, very differently. And we all saw it. I mean, we all saw that change in energy. The only time that I saw that change in energy was when I saw Dan Bongino do ad reads. Can I say this in a not mean way? I didn't believe Dan Bongino's ad reads. I don't know if you guys believe mine or not, but like I actually use these stuff and I actually do like it. And like, here it is. Like I've actually got the bag like hanging out right here. Our next sponsor is Patriot Coolers. There's one sitting on the desk here. Like I use them all the time. Like I go looking for them. I'm like, honey, where's the lid for the screw on top for the 20 ounce? Which one? The gray one. You know, like I use these things. This is the stuff I like. If you know anything about me in real life, and there are people in this chat that do, and there's people that listen to this that have met me, and you guys know, and it doesn't matter whether you're one of my friends' dads, because some of you all listen, or whether you're, my dad's friends, because you all listen, you guys know, like I'm a gear nut. Like I'll walk around and like I'll see some complete stranger. And I'll be like, hey, have you seen this? Check out this high-speed trigger on this rifle. Oh, does it scare you that I'm holding a rifle? Sorry. I get excited about the stuff that I'm pumping. I never felt like that about Dan Bongino. He was like, I'm eating this cereal. It's like a grown-up version of Trix. It was really awkward. And he would go from like, okay, guys, can you believe this thing's happening? And then he would go, let's talk about this thing that is really, really taking my soul because I've got to hawk this thing that I don't like. Have you ever thought about this weird windshield wiper treatment? I use them in Florida because it rains here. Or like whatever it was. I remember hearing his ads and I went like, oh, bro. You're not selling it. You're not selling it because you're not enthusiastic about it. I never would work for a company to sell a product that I didn't get excited about selling. I used to sell these chairs. This is actually all relevant, I think. I used to sell these chairs, the ones that are sitting behind me. This is a human scale, high back, freedom chair designed by Niels Diffrient. I still know that. I sold my last chair in 2005. So it's 20 years since I sold these chairs and I still buy them for myself. Does that tell you anything? I mean, I don't sell things I don't believe in. I would still buy a Dell computer if I was going to go build a computer like that, but I'm an Apple guy at this point, so I don't have any problem with Dell, though. And I used to sell Dell computers. I sold $20+ million worth of Dell computers and equipment. I cannot sell things that I don't care about, that I don't think are interesting. I don't do it. And I watched that attitude. I watched that energy level shift. And so did you guys. Which is why people aren't buying the news story. It started off with Epstein killed himself, and people went like, wait, where did that one guy go? And then it moves on. And it moves on to the thing where they go, we're pretty sure we got the right guy for Tyler Robinson. And I think maybe they do. I really do. But I don't think they sold it very well. And I think they shouldn't have had anything to do with it, because if you were smart, you'd say, I'm the deputy director. I was friends with this guy. By policy and just by professionalism, I've got to excuse myself. I'm going to recuse myself from this investigation, and I'll have nothing to do with it because I'm not going to endanger the prosecution of somebody who may have killed my friend. I told you that at the time. I'm telling you it again. And now we're back to this. And I'm going to play this clip again. I think I've played it 3 times on the show, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm telling you that when Dan Bongino gives us a tip that he's not saying things that he totally believes in, he tries to steel man it with an appeal to authority. I'm borrowing from my buddy Viva now. Steel manning the argument to make it stronger, to try to find the strongest position. What he does, Kash Patel is a different tell. Patel's tell is very clear. What he says is, would I lie to you? If this thing were true, would I act this way? And it's like, well, we don't freaking know you. And you seem like a dishonest jerk. You just signed a big deal with Qatar. Did you guys know that? We'll cover that maybe tomorrow. You signed a big deal with Qatar, and you took money from Qatar for years. That seems kind of weird. You just went over to Chinese, and you hung out there, and you signed a deal that they're going to stop doing fentanyl, and you claimed you saved tens of thousands of American lives. And the Chinese apparently gave you like $5 million worth of stock from this Chinese thing in a holding company that lives out in the Cayman Islands. Like, that's pretty weird. So you're asking a question. I'll turn around. I don't know the answer. Do you know the answer? Stop asking me questions that I can't answer, dude. Bongino's is different. He does appeal to an authority, and he steelmans his argument with the following. I used to be a different guy, because he knows that he said different things. He's not dumb, but he is stuck. So how do you explain away your previous positions? Probably the same way you did if you're a White House spokesperson. If you're a White House spokesperson, if you're Jen Psaki, if you're Ginger Goebbels, right? Or if you're SciShow Bob, aka Karine Jean-Pierre. They both were like cartoon characters. I mean, they both were like cartoon characters. So you're that, okay? And I don't think the current one is any different. They're all just you're a mouthpiece. You know that you're a paid mouthpiece. That's what you're going to do. Then you've got to actually compartmentalize, like, well, that's my professional persona, and my real persona is this. Dan has to do the opposite. His real persona was Podcast Dan, and we all know it because when he talked about it, he spoke like you and I do. He used his hands, right? He gesticulated. That's how you do it. That's how people go, oh, that's convincing and believable. That is the way that normal people talk about things, especially our friends who are animated from New York. I've got friends in New York. You pick up the phone and they're cartoon characters. And they're fun, and you want to talk to them. My buddy Charlie Ray, his actual name, Charlie Ray. And I can never say it without that. It's Charlie Ray, right? Charlie Ray is a character. When he picks up the phone, it's always going to be fun. It's always going to be amusing. Dan Bongino's show was kind of like that. And then you've got this guy on Hannity. And what he says is, I used to get paid for my opinion, and now I get paid for facts. He said the same thing on the Epstein. Hold on, watch.
My comments were clear. I'm not paid for my opinions anymore. I work for the taxpayer now. I'm paid on evidence. That's it.
Okay, I'm paid on evidence. That's the same as saying I'm paid on facts. Here he is on Hannity doing the exact same routine. Epstein, same story. Pipe bomber, same story, same argument, same appeal to strong manning or steel manning with this weird appeal to authority.
You know, I don't know if you remember this. This is before you became the deputy FBI director. You put a post on X right after this happened. And you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job. You said that, long before you were even thought of as deputy FBI director.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think again, legal process starts to surface and information.
Nobody talks like that. That's called distancing language. Can we agree on that? Pretty comfortable. We got our guy. Yeah, we're pretty comfortable. We got our guy. I've seen the video. I've been briefed on every nugget and tendril. Buddy, that's not convincing. And it's not convincing. When Sean Hannity is reading his tweet, Bongino looks closer to the cartoon picture that we have on the screen right now. He looks like he's getting ready for one of those. What is the slapping thing? There's a sport, power slap or something like that Rumble does, which is a weird sport, where dudes stand and they hold still and they get prepared to just receive some monstrous slap from some huge Russian guy with a big beard that slaps people for a living. That's a weird sport. I know exactly why men want to watch that, because I would watch it if I were seeing it live. But that's what Dan looks like. He looks like he's about to get a power slap and he's got to deal with it. It's coming right at him. And he's like, here comes the power slap from my friend. Oh, it's coming from my friend Sean Hannity on Fox of all places. No. How come you said this thing and now you don't say what you used to? It's so hard. It's hard to watch. For whatever it's worth, I used to actually have friends when I was in the military that would do something similar to the slap game. They called it the stuntman stinger. They'd go find a pretty girl and they would ask them to do a shot with them. And the stuntman stinger version of it, this is really dumb, but you guys might as well know. These are the kind of friends that I have. They would get a shot of tequila, and the game is that you would do the tequila shot basically all to the face. You guys know the stuntman stinger? This is something that you're going to see your college sons come home with for Christmas. Sorry about this, but this is out there. Especially, and forget your college sons. If you have an enlisted guy son, they're coming home with the stuntman stinger. The stuntman stinger is as follows. You have to get a shot of tequila. You take the salt, and there's the lemon or the lime, right? A citrus. And the stuntman stinger game is you lean back and you open up your eye and you throw some salt in your eye, which is retarded. And then you open up the other eye and then you squeeze the lemon or the lime in your eye. Then you take the shot and then a pretty girl hits you across the face. And my friends used to do this. And it's absolutely, it's riveting stuff to watch. Kind of like power slap. Kind of like watching Dan Bongino go on Fox right now. Have we made enough fun of this? Okay. Let's talk about the Epstein thing real quick, and then we're going to do a sponsor. I'm having way too much fun this morning. All right. New York judge orders release of Jeffrey Epstein grand jury records from the 2019 case. Remember, why was Jeffrey Epstein in prison? So that he could kill himself. Oh, yeah, they rearrested him. So there's been this argument ongoing, it was this old case. It's from 2007 to 2008. There's not any of that stuff. You're yeah, well, the FBI got involved then, and it was a state case. And then, for whatever reason, under Donald Trump, round one, they arrested him again. And then Kash Patel went out in front of Congress, and he was like, yeah, he trafficked to himself. And they're like, wait, what? And Massey's going over here going excuse me, sir, did you just say that he trafficked to nobody? He was trafficking women to himself, and all the names and all the lists and all the things and all the podcasts and all the his black book and all that other stuff that you guys were bullshitting about for years and years and years. That's all not real. And they're like, I've seen the video. He killed himself. And everyone's like, credibility problem. You know what you do for a credibility problem? Go seize an oil tanker. Maybe we could send some fast roping cool guys in. That looks, they got night vision on, guys. You know what? I realize it's not HRT because HRT has pano night vision, and those guys had binos. That's how nerdy I am. I just realized that watching that little video again. All right. In my head. Federal judge in New York on Wednesday granted Justice Department request to unseal grand jury records in Jeffrey Epstein's 2019 sex trafficking case. The odds of this having everything? Very, very low. You don't have to put everything in front of a grand jury. You just need probable cause, which is a low standard. Okay. The move comes a day after a separate judge ordered the release of the grand jury records related to Ghislaine Maxwell. In his order, this guy, Richard Berman, U.S. District Court judge, cited the law that Congress passed in the last month that required DOJ to release all of the records and called the language clear. The language act is clear. This was the Tom Massey push. This is the one that initially started off on the wrong side of Donald Trump, and MTG got on the wrong side, and then we turn it around. And okay, so the language is clear. And he says, quote, the court hereby grants the government's motion in accordance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. For all you people that don't like Tom Massey, This was his thing. And with the unequivocal right of Epstein victims to have their identity and their privacy protected, he said, 4-page ruling, not very long, pretty straightforward. That's what you'd expect. And of course, you're going to protect victim privacy. What was interesting is the Dems were kind of making this shift at one period in time, a couple weeks back, where they were talking about the people who were associated with and maybe named in the files were actually victims themselves, even though they may have settled some sort of lawsuits and signed some NDAs and stuff. So that was kind of a weird little kind of push. And that's kind of gone away, at least as far as the main coverage of it. He said that he agreed with the attorneys for the Epstein survivors who wrote to the court that the disclosure cannot come at the expense of privacy, safety, and protection of sexual abuse and sex trafficking victims. And again, FBI director under oath, punishable by perjury. That's a felony. Got out and said he trafficked to himself. So I guess we'll see some things. Anyone else think that this is like gonna reveal all things and now we'll know all the Epstein stuff? Does anybody think that? I'll just watch the chat, but the odds are probably not. I don't think so either. All right, let's do a read for our friends over at Patriot Coolers. And yes, our favorite, let's call it our longest serving sponsor. So I've known them the longest and I very much appreciate their work. Patriot Coolers. I shouldn't have favorites per se, but I do use these every single day, whether or not they're the sponsor of the day or not. PatriotCoolers.com. Use the promo code Kyle. Save yourself 10%. If you're new here and you've been thinking, you know, my Yeti looks dingy, or maybe some a-hole stole it, or maybe I went to the gym and then I left it there, and that happens all the time, and now I can't find it and some other person must have taken it. Maybe you give yourself a Christmas gift. PatriotCoolers.com, the promo code Kyle. Let me just recommend. This is the 20 ounce. It is very svelte. It is sleek, and it is very capable. The 30 ounce, it's slightly bigger, and it's also highly capable. And when you are a guy who thinks 20 ounce or 30 ounce, which one do you need? Maybe both. I have both. And then you're like, what if I had a 40 ounce though with a big ass handle and I could swing it and hit somebody in the head with it? You could, and they have something called the Major, and it's got multiple lids and a straw and all this other stuff. You can drink out of it normally or with a straw. And it is also awesome. And I use it all the time too. I use all these every single week. PatriotCoolers.com, the promo code KYLE, 10% off with that stuff. My parents use them. My brother works for the company that owns that organization. So that's kind of how we got connected with them in the first place. And they also help out vets who are having mobility issues, which is a win-win. They're actually, I think we can go broader here since we're away from the promo part. If you look back here on the wall, I actually like the way their boxes look enough to put them in my display. I mean, this is our sponsor wall. But yeah, they make a fantastic looking box. When you open it up, it's like America flag. You know you're going to get something that's pretty cool. And they have these American flag instincts, like 13 bars and 50 stars on the bottom, which are all etched in there. It's really a nice product. You guys are going to do well. And we use their big cooler every single day when we take the minivan out and go buy groceries, which is all the time because we've got 4 little mouths. All right, so that's that for sponsors. Let's keep on going. I've got some more fun stuff here. We're not done yet. We are having a lot of fun. Should we do this one? This is a good story. How about the House, which passed the NDAA? I've got a list of the amendments that failed that Tom Massey put in. For all of you Tom Massey haters, like, Tom Massey, what have you ever done for me? Can I bring something up to you? I'm not even sure that I've got it on a slide, so I may just have to open it up and see. Doggone it. Where did I put this thing? There it is. Tom Massey. We're going to read his potential amendments to this act. First, we'll just say the House passed it. It's a $900 billion. We spend almost $1 trillion on national defense. You guys know that? The whole crew, both in the House and in the Senate, were trying to pass it before the end of the year. The legislation, which sets lawmakers' defense priorities and authorizes spending levels for the Defense Department, aka the War Department, and national security programs, cleared the lower chamber with a bipartisan vote of 213 to 112, as you see on the screen. So that's a resounding win. Everybody's on board, except the people who aren't. Final hours before passage were not without some drama as Mike Johnson struggled to maintain control of his fractious majority. Always that. I think the midterms are going to be a bloodbath. That's just me. 5 minutes, procedural vote, stretched into an hour as a handful of conservatives voted against advancing the measure and a few moderate Republicans withheld their vote, setting the bill up for potential failure. But the holdouts ultimately came around. It wasn't even close, and it advanced, with conservatives saying they've secured assurances on their priorities. It's 3,086 pages long. It's freaking 3,000, almost 3,100 pages long. And it gives us $291 billion. These are just like made up numbers at this point. I mean, I'm just telling you, like, as someone, I used to work in finance and we'd have hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars. And that's pretty hard for a regular person to kind of even fathom like what that is. Because you look at your own housing accounts and you're like, nope. Hundreds of dollars? Yes. Thousands of dollars? Yes. Hundreds of thousands of dollars? House payment. Like the whole house. That's how you're shopping. How many people are making $100,000 anything during the year outside of a new home? Maybe you bought like a really expensive car. And then these guys are out there doing billions of dollars, like orders of magnitude beyond what any of us can fathom. $291 billion for operations and maintenance, $234 billion for military personnel and healthcare, $162 billion for procurement. That's new stuff they're going to buy. You guys wonder where some of the advancements come in this world? $146 billion in research and development. Oh my God. And $54 billion for military construction and nuclear programs. So there you have it, $900 billion. The lead up was marred by GOP infighting as Elise Stefanik was criticizing Mike Johnson, accusing him of blocking a provision that would require the FBI to notify Congress when it opens counterintelligence investigations into candidates running for office. Well, we can't have that. We cannot limit the power of the FBI. Of course, it always comes back to, you guys wonder why we have the FBI featured? I've never in my life, and maybe it's because I do it for a living now, and maybe it's because I used to work for the FBI, so my brain is tuned to it, but man, I've never seen the FBI in the news so often. Ever. I'm in my mid-40s, and I don't remember this being a thing. Anyway, here's Tom Massey's versions. In fact, actually, you know what? Should we just put this on the screen in some way? Let me find a way to put this on for you, because I actually think this is pretty good. Let's go through them on screen. Yeah, let's see if I can stretch it a little bit. Let's see what we could do. It won't be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be okay. And what's the stretch? There's the stretch thing. Oh, awesome. Okay, it actually worked. Here we go, folks. Listen, I have standards here. We can't just be throwing random things up there. But I was able to stretch this into the spot where it's supposed to fit. Let's read some of Tom Massey's ideas. Number one, prohibit the use of funds to query foreign intelligence information collected under FISA 702 against U.S. person identifiers. Prohibit the NSA and the CIA from using funds to mandate or request private entities to modify products to enable electronic surveillance, except as authorized under the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. That sounds great. I'm 100% behind that amendment. That's not going to go. Repeal the Smith-Munn Modernization Act of 2013 by restoring statutory protections and prohibitions against domestic dissemination of State Department and United States Agency for Global Media, aka the Broadcast Board of Governors. They're a weird group. Informational materials restricting so they don't want domestic propaganda. Yeah, that doesn't sound like we can do that either. Prohibit the transfer of Mark 84 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. Strike extensions of the Ukraine Security Assistance Act. In other words, get rid of them. Takes it out of the line items. Strike funding for the overseas humanitarian disaster civic aid programs costing taxpayers over $100 million. Sounds reasonable. I'm America only. There we go. Strike foreign aid from the Taiwan Security Cooperation Initiative. Strike foreign aid from Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan, Kurdish forces, and Syrian groups. Oh, this is like a very America first kind of position. This guy. You guys, this is why I like Tom Massey, just so you know. Strike $500 million worth of missile defense foreign aid to Israel. Strike continuation of foreign aid funding to Iraqi security forces, as well as other military, paramilitary, and security forces in Iraq. Strike foreign aid funding from Israel's anti-tunneling cooperation and the U.S.-Israel cooperation to counter unmanned systems, which cost the American taxpayer $150 million. Prohibit assistance to Israel. Prohibit assistance to Ukraine. For all of you guys that are not Massey guys, this is the stuff that he does. He says these are reasons that we should not support. And if we're going to have this huge-ass bill, let's at least curtail it and make it part of the things that Americans should care about. I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, call me crazy, but like, we're doing $900 billion and hundreds of millions of it will go into places and he gets hated on by the MAGA people because Donald Trump is status quo guy. He's a 90s Democrat. I'm just saying, to hear that and to watch people react, Tom Massey's a traitor. It's like, there's a reason why that guy keeps getting voted back in and he doesn't have to worry, I don't think, about his primary. It's because he actually is holding that quote unquote America first. How about the America only position? It's closer to that than anybody else. All right, let's do Charlie Kirk stuff because that's weird. This is something that many of you may not know. I think many of you may not know this. The Charlie Kirk assassination situation is that most of you have no idea what was actually argued in the document. If you've listened to this program and you're a diligent listener and you listen maybe like our chat moderator Rose Lopez does, if you listen like Rose, then you might have notes on this, and so you know for a fact that we've covered this. But we went through the probable cause statement, and I don't care to do it all the time. And I wanted to speak kind of more broadly about the quote unquote internet people doing Charlie Kirk murder assassination investigations. I cannot tell you how many weirdo clips, whether it be Candace Owens or my buddy Ryan Matta or other people that don't make any sense to me, and they go, new information has emerged in the Charlie Kirk investigation. Dear friends, with all of the grace and humility of my rule, the Ryan Riley rule, that some of us we don't know in person, and I don't want to be mean to you without knowing you. You're not investigating the murder of Charlie Kirk. You think you are, but you have no idea what you're doing. You don't have access to any of the actual evidence. You certainly don't have access to do the number of interviews that the Bureau did. The people who are actually interviewed that have any kind of substantial information have been placed under a gag order by the state. And if you think that they're going to talk to you in that way, you're out of your freaking minds. So what you're doing is you're speculating and you're trotting on and you're essentially monetizing the death of someone that many of you consider to be a friend. Charlie Kirk was not my friend. I didn't know him. I met him maybe 2 times and grand total of 45 seconds. And I didn't agree with a lot of the things that Charlie Kirk said, but I did appreciate the way that he did it. Does that make sense? I didn't like the way that he necessarily lived. It's not my thing. He's much more flashy. We chose very different types of spouses and things like this, right? And I don't necessarily think the ways that he went about stuff was the way that I would go about it, but like, that's America. You're allowed to do that. I think it's atrocious that somebody thought it was okay to kill a man who's a father because they didn't agree with his words. I think that's insane. And so, of course, that struck everybody, and people acted very differently after it happened. Some people went, this is hellish. This is a hellish scenario. This is something that has not existed since the 60s, maybe the 70s. And my generation grew up without political assassinations of people because of their words, generally speaking. So that affected people differently. And some people snapped and they were like, I can't actually put this into the world that I live in, so it must be my favorite, whatever it is, confirmation bias. And so they went down these wild rabbit holes of which there is not going to be enough evidence to substantiate. And I know it's not, because the defense is just now, today, this is coming back to the story, for the first time going to put this guy in the courtroom because there's so much. They haven't even been able to have a probable cause hearing. Do you guys realize he hasn't even entered in a plea yet? This is Tyler Robinson we're talking about, who's on the screen. And I get it. I've talked to people who also look at it and they're like, the probable cause statement kind of argues that he's got a gun down his pants. Yep, that's hard. I talked to Clint Russell about it the other day. I think it was a very reasonable conversation. My default instinct is I don't see anything that is incompatible with reality so far. And I'm more than happy to do what Tucker Carlson said in a video that he released on X the other day. One of you guys tagged me on it. Tucker Carlson said something very simple. He said, I like the people that are involved in this. And again, some of the people that are involved in saying some of these quote unquote, whatever investigations, I like them. I like Ryan Matta. I think Ryan is really a lovable guy. If you guys don't know this, Ryan was our producer here. I think he's nuts sometimes. I tell him to his face. I'm like, hey dude, you're retarded. And he'll be like, whatever. Yeah, I am. You could be that. We don't have to be mad at each other. I'm not even mad at Candace Owens, although I think it's a lot grosser there because she's been making every single podcast, from what I can tell, for weeks and weeks, if not months, about the death of her friend. And she's just coming up with these, she's going down into places that don't make any sense. And she hasn't seen all the evidence. And neither have you, and neither have I, and neither have my friends who work in the FBI, to be totally fair. Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing a conservative activist, Charlie Kirk, is set to make his first in-court appearance on Thursday ever. We broke this out the other day on the Liberty Lockdown podcast. Those of you who've come here from there, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys from YouTube. The deal is that people don't understand how the justice system even works, even though we all pay for it. There are 2 ways that you get brought into the system. One is by criminal complaint or information. That's the way that Tyler Robinson was brought in. That is the way, for whatever it's worth, Brian Cole Jr. was brought in. A complaint or information. They're kind of interchangeable terms. There's a probable cause statement, an affidavit that says these are the things that happened, and these pieces of evidence, which we're not going to present you all the evidence or we're not going to give you all the exhibits, but we have the evidence is what they're swearing to. And when you look at it, You're going to be able to go, okay, fine. Because of the things that you've presented and sworn are true, there is probable cause to believe, which means it's more likely than not. It's not the highest burden there is. To convict, we need something way bigger, beyond a reasonable doubt. No reasonable person could doubt it. I'm going to tell you off cuff right here. We have enough, and I shared this with Brian Cole's mom last night. We have enough to give reasonable doubt to jurors in Washington, D.C., and probably to every member of this audience, because I did it to a random person that is a good friend of mine. And I made a presentation, and he's like, not guilty. And I've made the presentation to 2 FBI agents, retired. They both said, not guilty. I think that we have enough to be able to acquit, because it won't beat the burden of a reasonable doubt when we're talking about it. There's 2 ways you get into the system: information or indictment. Indictment means you go in front of a grand jury. The grand jury process is very specific. You go in there as an agent, as a law enforcement officer. You sit down at a chair. You're in front of this sort of stadium seating room of people, and they all have the ability to ask you questions after the prosecutor or the United States attorney or the delegate thereof, so the assistant United States attorney, comes in and asks you to lay out the case, and you do it. So you say, these are the facts, and this is the person, and this is why we believe this is it, and then here's some evidence. So you show some evidence. You may show some cell phone pings. You may show a map. You may show some video. Okay, you may have pictures of a gun. You may have some a lab report that you read from that tells you what the lab said about DNA or fingerprint analysis or whatever. And so you testify on behalf of the investigative agency, and the prosecuting agency gets to ask you questions, and then the people get to ask you questions. The grand jury members, they're sitting out there. They're up in their seats. There's a 4-person who's the leader, and then there's all the regular people in there, and they're all gathered in, and they ask you questions, and then you leave. And they may have other witnesses or not. And at the end of it, those regular people are asked the question: is there probable cause? Here's the statement. Here's what the crime is, and here's what the elements of the crime have to be. Do you believe that there's enough evidence to proceed forward with prosecution? And they give you a yes or a no. And if everybody says yes, then you get what's called a true bill. And that results in indictment. And if they say no, you get no bill. And I talk to people who have never seen a no bill, because when the federal government brings a case, that's how it works. And in this case, I think generally speaking, it will probably go that way. But he hasn't even entered in a plea yet, people. So he kicked this down the line. This is Tyler Robinson's representatives and his attorneys. They kicked it down the line, and they cited the voluminous nature of discovery. I want to tie something in for you, because that's what's going to happen to this guy, Brian Cole, as well. They're not connected cases. Let's be real. One of them was a 5-year-long manhunt made by the FBI with a $500,000 reward. And in theory, thousands of interviews, hundreds of thousands of items and documents and pieces of evidence from the technical collection side of it, hundreds of potential suspects when it came to the pings, and a connection to January 6th, which is a politically motivated case in a very specific way. It leaned really aggressively one way. And of course, we've had pardon of all the people that were associated with January 6th. So that's one case. The Charlie Kirk assassination thing is a straightforward murder as far as anything else goes. For all the talk of conspiracy, and there may be people involved in a conspiracy, and I'm open to finding out what that is, but it hasn't been presented yet in a way that I can look at it and go, obviously, that's credible information. It could be an online conspiracy of people who agreed to help. It could be people who helped radicalize. Shoot, I mean, it could just as easily be the freaking FBI going out there. This is just a possibility, not a probability yet. But the possibility that somebody went out there and said, you have this weird sexual proclivity, you're having some doubts and some questions, you've got political animus against this guy, and we're going to motivate you forward because it benefits us. And then you had a broken arrow situation. Broken arrow is when you lose track of the weapon, right? So that's a real possibility. Maybe that's what happened with Tyler Robinson. But they found him in 33 hours after the killing. And the Brian Cole scenario, we're talking about 5 years. They're going to do the same thing. They've done the same thing to both of these suspects, and they've done the same thing to both of their attorneys and their legal teams. So you guys have to understand, they dumped discovery on these people in not a way that is easy to handle. They don't make it easy, which also sucks. I don't like this. I think this is not a fair system. Put the chat up here for you guys to hear too. Not that you can't hear normally, but just so you guys can respond as well and be on the screen and you can register your thoughts. Here's the issue. If I have, let's say, 186 cell phone pings and they are anonymized by phone number, I can redact all the phone numbers or whatever it is, and I can put them out, or I have to unredact them, and I'll dump 186 people's multi-year cell phone records on you as one single exhibit in discovery. If I'm DOJ and I don't want you to be having this easy, I can dump to you 39,000 video files and say, inside of this collection of 39,000 video files, we found the thing that we believe was useful. Go find it yourself. Good luck. Figure out how to use the system, figure out how to come in and use the consoles. You can only come into the FBI space to be able to use it. You have to make an appointment to do so. All right? That's not fair. That is not fair process. I don't care who you are, and I don't like it. And I don't like that the FBI does it, and I wouldn't like it when I was still in the FBI. I think it's shitty. If you've got a great case, then give them everything exactly the way that you have it and the way that you plan on presenting it. That's the right way to do it. That's the honest and American system that we believe, that you have a right to see, and if the state's got you, they've got you because you did it. But if they've got you or they're going to make it look really, really hard for anybody else to come after you, that is not okay. It is not acceptable for you to present evidence in an unethical way that puts a huge burden because you've had 5 years to investigate it. Or maybe you have an $11 billion agency that's backing you up. The FBI is a secondary agency that is supporting state law enforcement in the Charlie Kirk scenario. Tyler Robinson is being prosecuted by the state. And you've got an $11 billion federal agency behind it that's willing to help out. That's certainly more than the Utah Bureau of Investigation has, or maybe even the county or the prosecutors there. So you've got massive resources behind you. And then you've got this guy who maybe has a public defender or has some appointed people. Same story in Brian Cole's case. They've got someone who stepped up, who's not a public defender, but essentially is doing so, as far as I can tell, like in a pro bono way. Here's the difference for Brian Cole. I am not okay with that. And we've got people coming from the Blazes team, coming from the internet team that's kind of been looking at this case for 5 years because former federal investigators who've been looking at this case for 5 years. We are going to bring to bear the same 5 years worth of scrutiny and awareness and examination of evidence. We're going to bring that to bear to a guy who just found out he was on the radar. And today, yesterday, last week, whatever it was when they arrested him, right? They just got him on December 4th. So a week ago, he suddenly went from zero to I have to defend my life and try to prove that I didn't do this because they're going to try to prove that I did. And we're giving him a jump start, which is what we're offering. And it's what I offered to his mother the other day when I spoke to her. I said, listen, we have evidence that I think is already exculpatory. Like, we could stop doing the work right now. You could take it to trial tomorrow. And I think the FBI would be absolutely screwed. They would get nowhere with this prosecution. Certainly not in DC, where you're going to have like a decent number of black people on the jury, and you're going to set up this guy, this black autistic dude. You're going to try to take him down. How about this? Is this a perfect map? No. Is this what the FBI's map looks like? It is not. But let me just show you again. This is the ping map. And there's obviously way more than this. But each of these sectors that you're seeing on the screen, should we plug Spotify since this is a visual? You actually really need this, folks. Go to KyleSeraphinShow.com. I mentioned it earlier in the show where you guys can find how our one show disappeared. KyleSeraphinShow.com is how you get here. Okay. Support what we're doing if you're so inclined. If you think that justice matters, which I do, regardless of what the politics are or who the person is on the other end of it, our federal government shouldn't be weaponized to destroy people. If you like that, hit the like over on YouTube. I'd appreciate it if you did. Share it with a friend. We're growing the channel. That's great. It's actually our powerful weapon. And I told his mom last night, I was like, look, I forgot to tell you this, but there's no money involved in this for me. I don't want any money. Like, I want justice. I want truth. I want our government to operate honestly. They already came after me and took all my YouTube records. They took my Google records. They took my DMs from Twitter. And they were trying to indict me in a similarly BS case. And I would have been in a bad spot. And I would hope that somebody would have the balls to step up and say the federal government is evil and we're not going to allow this to happen. I hope they would do that. And there's a couple of us that are going to do that on behalf of Mr. Cole. And if he was involved in it in some way, I tell you what, I can pretty much guarantee you, and I guarantee you a jury's going to agree with me, he didn't physically walk around and put pipe bombs on that day. So you're going to have to prove something very, very different. And the FBI is going to get stomped on this one because they blew it. And I also think, because I know how the file systems work, and if they give me access to it, if they want to bring me in to help, I'll do it for nothing. I really will. And I know another group of retired agents that would be happy to jump on and do this for nothing, for just the cause of righteousness. And we'd be able to show you. There's going to be a file in the FBI's file system, probably going back to 2021, that actually clears this guy. Whether it's in January, February, March, April, something like that, there's a reason why he didn't get found right away. It's because they already knew. So I appreciate you guys supporting us. Again, the likes over there, like literally it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Share the show. It doesn't cost you anything. That'd be awesome. It's what makes us powerful in a way that the media, this is the difference between what happened to Richard Jewell and what's happening right now to Brian Cole. So my appeal is not like, oh, there's this, new facts have broken in the Brian Cole case. It's like, nope, I can't even give them to you just yet because it's not my story to tell, but I'm part of the story that's working there. And I just have agreements with people that work journalism. I don't get paid to break stories. If you guys didn't know that, we don't make any additional money for breaking stories. It's cool. It's cool to break a story occasionally, but I'd rather do it where it has bigger impact. And we're small. We got like almost 20,000 people over on YouTube. We got 30,000+. And that's not nothing. We got another 20,000 of you that listen on the audio program across it. I figured that our monthly audience of any kind is about 300,000 people total between Rumble and between YouTube, and between the different audio platforms. About 300,000 people are listening to this show. I don't know if I've ever estimated that before for you guys, but I did the other day. Okay. One of the things that exists right now that didn't exist for Richard Jewell is independent media. And we're funded by you guys, $5 a month. This is like an Alex Jones type show, right? We need you. We're the fight. It was like, well, no, I don't. I just need you to share the show for free. That's what I need. I don't need you to go buy supplements. If you don't buy the products because you're not in the market for them right now, that's fine too. Share the show. Expand the audience. That's what we monetize. The products sell themselves. The people that want to advertise with us see what we're doing and they're like, got it. Okay. Credibility is more important. So let's do the right thing. Let's just do that. And I think we can. And I think we will. And I think this map is a real problem for the FBI, who already knows. I've seen cast analysis. I had one of you email me. I don't know why people think they need to email me and correct me about stuff that I know more about, but thank you for trying. I appreciate the interactions, but this is not like my email is not open for you to try to say, oh, allow me to fact check this thing. Sometimes you do. Almost always I disagree with you. So like, thanks for sending, like your hearts are in the right place. I sat next to a guy who does cast for a year. He was my neighbor in my neighborhood. I know a lot about how cast works. I've seen what they generate. I used to look over his shoulder when I didn't have work to do. And I'd sit there and I'd go, hey, what are you doing? Oh, we're cracking open these phones for Cellbrite. Oh, cool. What are you doing right there? Oh, we're doing a historical investigation of pings for a murder. Oh, interesting. What is this? Oh, this is a kidnapped kid up in Colorado. We're trying to find them. Right? These pings are garbage. These pings are not good. The number 3 is outside of Sector 3 right there, which is one of the sectors. I think they called it Sector Charlie in the complaint. The number 4, which is where the bomber would have to be on the map, is not inside of the Sector 4 for that tower. The ping is outside of the area that that we're supposed to believe the cell phone was pinging in. 2 is in it and 1 is out of it. So 1, 3, and 4 on that map. And those correspond to 8 p.m. is number 3. The number 1 up there is like somewhere in like the 7:45 range. The most critical time for the pipe bomb case is 7:34 to 8:18 p.m. on January the 5th. I'm telling you this so you can lock in, and when you hear the news when it comes out, you'll be like, got it. 7:34 p.m. January 5th is when the pipe bomber shows up on screen for the first time. And then we go to 8:18, disappears, and that's it. I have an entire file on my desktop here. I'm going to throw one on the screen here just for fun. I'll make sure we get the right one. That's it. Okay. We have a file that shows you exactly when and where. Here we go. It's not a great look because I stretched it funky. This is not the way the map actually looks, people, but it's close enough. Okay. It looks okay. Right? This is the pipe bomb map as it matters. For those who are first catching up, if you're brand new to the program, go back and listen to the other ones. I'd love it. But here we go. At the bottom of this particular graphic, written in yellow, 7:34 p.m. start time. The route is in red. The route in red is the ingress route. That's the way that you walk to where it goes. Okay? And he walks down one street, and then he heads up north on New Jersey, and then turns around and goes west on D Street, and whoever this person is, and we believe it might be a woman based on those weird bra strap things, okay, goes from 7:34 to 8 p.m. on foot in this vicinity. Has to be there. If you're the pipe bomber, you're the person walking around there. That's the FBI's case. And then At 8 p.m., that yellow arrow discontinues at the bottom of the screen, and it goes away. Falls out of camera footage. There's 8 minutes of missing pipe bomber on foot movement, but it's commensurate with 8 minutes worth of walking. It goes from that spot all the way up past Providence Park, goes north on 2nd Street Southeast, past Folger Park, which is now closed for renovations or something to that effect, and then ends up at C Street Southeast and 2nd Street Southeast. And at that corner is basically where the pipe bomber pops up on video once again at 8:08. So out of camera footage from 8 p.m. to 8:08, but has to be on foot because where do you park over there? And that would have been real easy to find. And then wanders around, goes over to the RNC, Capitol Hill Club, supposedly drops the bomb there behind the dumpster, and then disappears at 8:18. So those hours, those minutes, it's not even an hour, 7:34 to 8:18 is critical. And the person who is the pipe bomber has to be on foot dropping off the pipe bombs according to the way the FBI's case is written. Period. The end. Okay? Here's video from it, which the FBI gave us. Remember the same stuff that we talked about? Epstein files. Oh, they're going to be really good. You're going to understand it. We're going to downgrade this stuff. We're going to wash out the face. We're going to do weird things. Okay? That's the claim. If the claim is that the video footage is conclusive and this is the person doing it, that person is not autistic, that person is athletic, and that person is not the guy that they got. Per the neighbors in the neighborhood, per people who know anybody who's autistic of any level. There's not a lot of super athletic autistic people. They tend to move differently. You'll notice while watching this video, look over the shoulder. That's like a level of awareness, like who's watching me. But sure, it's a black autistic Brony guy who lives in mom's basement, who's interested in My Little Pony, who apparently was covertly building bombs before the election for a political reason. No further information. Even if his proportions aren't correct, and even if it makes no sense. That's the claim. It's going to go badly. I don't think Tyler Robinson's story is the same thing. I really don't. And the reason it's not the same thing is because we haven't seen all the evidence they have. It happened very quickly. 33 hours of manhunt is not the same as 5 years. State prosecution is not the same as an FBI prosecution. But I'm still open to finding out that there was some shenanigans in there. I'm just saying that the people that I know that worked out of the Salt Lake field office are totally respectable people, that people in this chat, you could take my word for it because the kind of people I associate with are not scumbags. How do you know? You've seen Garrett O'Boyle. You've seen George Hill. You've seen Phil Kennedy. You've seen Marcus Allen. You've seen Steve Friend. Quick little update on the Steve Friend thing, because there may be a newspaper article coming about that, and I want to kind of cover it real quick. Steve Friend and I did a podcast. I actually want to pull up the... I'm doing a lot of this like on the fly right now. Sorry, guys. But this is relevant, I think. We published an episode. These are our top episodes. Should I put this on the screen too? Why not? Give me 2 seconds. Here we go. We did the top episodes from YouTube. It's not the best indication, but because it's new and it's relatively like we're performing at a different level than we have previously, it's kind of interesting to see it. So I did a poll for the top episodes of all time on YouTube, which is our highly, new growing channel, and it hasn't existed previously. This is not going to be real great, but that's okay. Size it down. I'm trying to crop things in real time. This is not the way this program was set up to do. All right. So we've got the episodes that were highest performing on YouTube as sort of a microcosm for, let's call it, new audience. There it is. All right. And in this little mixed bag, we've got episode number 6, top 6 that we've done. These numbers are not huge, by the way. 7,300, on YouTube is not breaking the bank on anything. But it is an indication because we used to get 50 views and now we have 100x that. So that's pretty cool. This is not a drill. J6 pipe bomb reveal with Joe Hanneman and Steve Friend. You guys remember that? That was October 9th. On October 10th, after we aired that episode, Steve Friend got paid by the FBI for the first time in 3 years, even though he had an agreement going back way before that. They suddenly popped up and gave him a paycheck so they could kind of claim that he was an employee, I guess. And then so far, our best episode, maybe ever, and I do think it's relevant. Why? And it is sad because Steve Friend was on it, and it's the last time we're going to see him for a little while. Steve Friend did an episode with us on December the 5th. And I covered some of this on Monday, but I'm going to give you a little bit more detail in short order. Captured. FBI arrests autistic black man from mom's basement after a 5-year investigation. You guys know I love a little bit of sarcasm in my title names. December 5th was also the day after he did that podcast with me. And we shredded FBI management for stupidity. I've had multiple people come in from other news agencies, and they said, I watched that, and all the questions I had, like that explained why I had those questions. Maybe one of the best ones we've ever done with the two of us. And that was December 5th. So that was last week, Friday. And after we did that, his attorneys fired him that afternoon, fired him as a client, said he could not come back. And then 2 days after he was fired from his attorneys and he no longer had the protection of talk to my attorneys, the FBI said show up at the office. And that's why he went to work on Monday. You think people inside the Bureau and people who are like really, really monitoring this and have a political interest in getting the answer are not paying attention to this? Hi guys. FBI 7th floor. What's going on out there? Hi, other FBI people. I appreciate you that know what your oath is. I appreciate those of you who understand that will still reach out to us. I also appreciate you that are just quietly doing your job the right way, because I know you're there. So I'll just say that real clearly. I occasionally get little messages coming in from back channels and so on. I know you're there. Some of you guys have more balls than others. That's fine. No big deal. Hold the line. That's what we used to say. I actually wrote a check and it showed up in the congressional record. Hold the line. O'Boyle and Allen held the line. We wrote them checks for it. You guys, our listeners, and the people who are the audience over on X, who raised all the money that we did, almost 600 grand. You guys held the line. You know that? And so there are members of law enforcement that will. You're the ones who won't arrest somebody because they decided not to wear a mask at a Vons or a Safeway or an H-E-B or a Publix or a Piggly Wiggly. I think I got all the major groceries, right? Yeah, some of you guys know you're holding the line quietly, and you're not doing the things that are illegal, immoral, or unethical. And some of you probably have some apologies to make later. And I hope that you figured out where that line is and you're holding it. But I know you're listening because we can see the impact of it. We can see the movement of it. I actually had somebody call and tell me yesterday, he said, hey man, nothing for nothing. I heard you on Alex Jones talking about how Bongino is packing up all of his stuff and getting his security detail to do that. I heard a little rumor that he's out there seeding rumors so that he can see where the leaks show up on the Kyle Seraphin show. Dan, you freaking goofball. Are you serious? Do better. Do better. We've got more serious things to worry about than that, Dan Bongino. Like your credibility is getting destroyed. How about this? How about you guys worry about this? We'll talk about this. How about tomorrow? Let's do a whole episode about the sort of race angle. But like this would be more interesting. Maybe you guys should be doing this work. Right? How about little Mogadishu hanging out in Minnesota? That may be a thing you guys should be more worried about. Maybe you should be worried about the Chinese buying up our farmland. That's what the FBI does. Complex investigations into large-scale criminal actions and nation-state actors that are abusing the American people. Maybe you guys could do that instead of worrying about trying to jam up some autistic Brony guy. That'd be better. This is Joel Salatin. I saw this on Tom Massey's feed, by the way, and this haunts me. It's not really the things that we cover here, but as a guy who wants to harvest animals and maybe grow some of my own and have some space to be able to grow my own stuff, and that's not a thing I can achieve currently because of the way that the economy is set up and the fact that I lost the job that would have been able to afford it. I care about that. Here's Joe Salatin talking about farming. How about we make America healthy again? How about we make America actually just have access to farmlands instead of the freaking Chinese? Maybe Dan Bongino and co. could be not leaking rumors to find out whether or not I know what he's up to and could instead be worried about the Chinese buying up America. That seems like something that the podcast Dan would have cared about, right? Right?
The half, you ready for this? Half of America's farmers are 60 years old. In the next 15 years, half of all America's agriculture equity, land, buildings, machinery is going to change hands. Who's it going to go to? Bill Gates, the Chinese, Monsanto, BlackRock, Vanguard? Or is it going to be going to a new generation of young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, entrepreneurial land investors who look themselves as stewards of creation? We need to give them a tool, and that tool, in my view, doesn't require around money from one agency to another, no regulations, good, bad, or indifferent. All it takes is to allow these thousands of young farmers that I meet every year in America ready to access their neighbors with retail dollars to give them a seat at the table so that they can take 1,000 chickens, turn them into pot pies, and make a living on a 5-acre farm.
It sounds awesome to me. I'd like to be able to make a living on a 5-acre farm. It beats the hell out of scamming the government for millions of dollars and spending money that's meant for kids that we're sending off to people in Somali communities that are buying these luxury houses. This is one of the government's exhibit. This is J54, a luxury house, private villa, and other things that fraudsters, scammers, and otherwise useless sucking ticks on the American taxpayer were able to grab because of government fraud. It turns out government's not a very good spender of your money. So maybe the FBI could be invested in this sort of stuff. I would like it better. It would make me happy. We had cases like this that got abandoned, by the way, during COVID. They were out of the Washington field office, millions of dollars of fraud. In those cases, this was like Indians and not Somalis. And it's not specifically relevant, like what their ethnic background was, except like we saw like a fair number of people that were doing wide and massive frauds, and they were in specific ethnic communities of people that had immigrated here. So why are immigrants trying to take advantage of our system? Have they mistaken our kindness for weakness? And if so, can we reestablish the fact that we are kind but not weak and then just smash these people, which is what should happen? Can we destroy the scammy, nasty sort of instinct for people to come here and then leech off the American taxpayer? You know who would do that? The FBI. With broad, sweeping, large-scale investigations. Like, who else could do that? A state? Not necessarily. The money, $11 billion that the federal government does, could be better used than spying on extremists, whether you like their speech or not, or whether you think they should be supporting anti-ICE protesters. How about they do the thing that we all hope they would do? Go find these scumbags. Luxury cars, private villas, overseas wire transfers. CBS News obtained dozens of files and photos that reveal how Minnesota fraudsters, read that Somali, blew through hundreds of millions of dollars. They're actually saying it's as much as $8 billion in taxpayer money as part of the largest COVID-era fraud schemes. I assure you, there are many that are somewhere near this too. The files document a spending spree in which the defendants, many of them of Somali descent, took taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry children, and they bought cars, property, jewelry. Videos show them popping champagnes at opulent Maldives resorts. In a text message from one of the defendants, he said, "You're going to be the richest 25-year-old, inshallah." Oh, inshallah. The government documents. They are exhibits from a recent federal trial. They're being made public for the first time by CBS. So here we are showing you that luxury house. Ain't that something? It's real pretty. Confirmation emails for a stay in an overwater villa with a private pool at the Radisson Blue Resort, BLU Resort in the Maldives. Lakefront property in Minnesota, as you see on the screen right here, if you're listening in one of the places where you can actually listen and see. Receipts showing wire transfers to China and East Africa, first-class tickets to Istanbul and Amsterdam, and a 2021 Porsche. Stack of money and texts between the various defendants and so on. This is what you think that the FBI should be doing. They should be going after 24-year-old Amdimajigala Mohammed Nur, whatever the heck that is. He was sentenced to 10 years in order to pay $48 million in restitution. But apparently he siphoned hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, crime does pay for these people. What about the governor? What about the governor who runs the state where that stuff goes down? Has he been on this, you think? I feel like I have a video of Tim Walz. He's really upset that Donald Trump called him a retard. I mean, that seems to be where he's at. So here you go. This is the governor of the state where this went down, and theoretically they were part of the handling of the money.
My state are experiencing the pettiness of this administration. I always have to check myself because he brings out the worst in me. Thanksgiving night, I'm minding my own business, playing Yahtzee with my relatives, and I get a drive-by slur from him calling me seriously the R word.
So, and yeah, he did. He called him the R word. He said he was retard. And every time that I see Tim Walz, I feel like that clip has the same energy as this clip. I cannot unsee it, and now neither can you.
But if you could just get me well enough to get back to base.
Right. Kick ass. Don't want to sound like a dick or nothing, but it says on your chart that you're fucked up. You talk like a fag, and your shit's all retarded. What I do is just like, you know, you know what I mean? Like,
you know what I mean? Like, that's just how I feel about you, Tim Walz. I think your shit's fucked up and you're all retarded. Like, I never can see that guy and take him seriously. Somebody who's like, and now we have Tim Walz. He's going to be coming here to hang out with us. He's like some other weak dude. And he stands up and he's like, he puts his hands up in the air. What are you doing, bro? Why are you like this? I saw this clip, which I wanted to share with you. The New York Times is now sad. It's sad. I'm going to tell you where the energy went wrong in this country, too. We did yesterday the divorce of task and purpose, the discussion of mission. And this lady missed it. She came to America. This is the claim. She's a Muslim nurse, or I think she's a nurse practitioner. Okay, fine, great. She came to the United States. She naturalized as a citizen. Not sure we need you, but whatever. Here you are. You got your passport, and now you're American. You're not a Somali anymore. You're American. That's how that works. Welcome to America. And you carried your passport and you were proud of it. And now they're routing up the scammers and the scumbags and the people that came here illegally. And that thing that you swore allegiance to, which was like the American Constitution, that you were going to swear allegiance to this nation above all others, and you were renouncing claims on the former. Guys, go look at the oath of citizenship. It's really clear. Now you're embarrassed about America because it's getting rid of people that didn't do what you did? Go and get citizenship? Are you freaking serious right now? Do you know how weird this is that you're actually weaponizing this feminine instinct, the same thing that Tim Walz has? And I do think this is a real problem. And I do think that my former agency has a role in it. Just do your job quietly. Don't do screw ups. Don't grab the wrong guy. Don't go get black autistic dudes who are living in Woodbridge, Virginia. Go get the people that apparently make this woman now ashamed to be American. Get them out of here. You tell me why. This is the difference between people on the right that are immigrants, of which there are many. They came to this country and they're super proud, and it doesn't go away because ICE is doing the job that ICE does. And then there's these people, and I don't know who told them this was okay, but it seems like their loyalty's in the wrong spot.
Before carrying my passport around, I had a feeling of pride, and now I'm carrying it and it has a lot of darkness around it because now I'm just like, I just want to get home safe to my kids.
We're in Minneapolis, days after the Trump administration directed ICE to begin targeting and arresting undocumented Somali migrants in the city.
The Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. We're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country.
People from Somalia are garbage. And I heard it the first time. It was heartbreaking, because not for myself, because I know I'm not.
Munira Malamasak runs a primary care clinic in Minneapolis.
I don't care. And it's called Inspire Change Clinic, which is also the name of the ISIS magazine, Inspire, to inspire terrorists. I was heartbroken, but not for me, because I am not garbage. I know this, but other people are garbage, and they think they're garbage when Donald Trump called them garbage. Seriously, we're going to go play the clip for you too.
But if you could just get me well enough to get back to base.
right. Kick ass. Well, don't want to sound like a dick or nothing, but it says on your chart that you're fucked up. You talk like a fag, and your shit's all retarded.
Sorry, that may be the case. Tell her to check her chart. It might not be right. I had this funny little moment this morning when I realized I'll be 44 at the end of this month, and I have 0 Muslim friends. And that's not because I went like avoiding Muslim people. I just don't have any Muslim friends. None of them have ever crossed into my sphere, my friend group, that have the same values as me. And maybe that's because they keep to themselves, or maybe it's because I run with a different group. But I don't have any. Like, let's call it 35 years of being aware of anything, but let's call it, let's see, what's fair? 18 years old on, right? So 25 years. No Muslims have entered my adult friendship circle ever. Weird. I got some friends that really, really don't like Muslims. By the way, some of them are from the Middle East. That's kind of interesting. You want to find somebody who really doesn't like Muslim people? It's like Middle Eastern Christians. Very intense. My friends who have accents like this and say things like, my friend, I tell you something. I do not like Muslims. And I'm like, that sounds super funny coming out with your voice. You speak Arabic, right? And he's like, yes, of course, I do. Yeah. And then we make fun of stuff like that. That's interesting, right? Anyway, when Donald Trump is saying something like, hey, the people that are here are garbage, and then we know for a fact that some of the people are legitimately garbage, what would be a garbage thing for you to do? What would be garbage? A garbage thing for you to do would be to spend money on this beautiful house that you didn't earn, that came from the American taxpayers who brought you in out of a shithole country, to quote the president. And the money that you were taking was meant for people who were starving or hungry or less fortunate. That'd be kind of garbage, wouldn't it? How do you substantiate that? I know that I am not garbage, but other people might feel like garbage. Probably the man who stole $100 million from these children. It reminds me of the guys that are doing the video. You remember we did the black skies in Qatar kind of thing? Got black skies in Gaza. One day we'll play that video again. Hasn't come up for a little while. Anyway, so there you have it. Instead of going after these people, the FBI is seizing tankers. We show the cool fast road video again. The FBI is doing this and celebrating this. And what really should be happening is a massive and large scale focus on this. And if you missed what this is where, and you're probably not watching us on Spotify, and you're probably not watching on a video platform, so let me help you correct yourself. Go to Rumble. It's rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. You can go to YouTube, love it there, and it's youtube.com/@Kyle Seraphin, @Kyle Seraphin on X. Locals, it's KyleSeraphin.com. That made it quite easy. Wherever you go, hit the subscribe button, join the channel. We very much appreciate you guys. Again, we're weaponizing you and we're monetizing you, but I'll tell you right up front that we're doing it. I won't hide it from you. If you're listening on Spotify, great. If you're listening on anywhere else, doesn't mean it's not good. It just means you're missing out on the videos. And I love to be able to show you some stuff. So come on over to Spotify where you can toggle between. And hopefully they stop screwing with us and we don't have this weird little moment where, we don't know what's happening because I'm apparently broadcasting into, 1970, 1969. I got 2 palette cleanses for you today because it's kind of heavy. I guess that was kind of a heavy series of things. One of them is from Archie Bunker. Is that weird? I don't think we've ever played an Archie Bunker clip. And I normally would not. I got to find the darn thing. Where did I put it? One second here, folks. I had a moment yesterday, which is unlike any moment that I've ever had. I've never done this in my life, and I don't know why I did it. I sat down to put my shoes on to go to the gym, which I then found out was closed. And when I went to go put the shoes on, I put my right sock on and I put my right shoe on. I've never done that before. I don't know if that's the first step to becoming a serial killer. And then I went and put my left sock on and then I put my left shoe on. And I ended up in the same position that I normally would. But I was a little bit concerned. Because I realized that that's not normal. That's not right. I have to assume that's how Hannibal Lecter put his shoes on. I know he was a fictional character, but I think Hannibal Lecter sat in that little stone cell before Clarice came in and he went right sock, right shoe, left sock, left shoe. And now I'm going to at least acknowledge that other people have known this was not normal.
Do you know that we don't catch that fishing boat? There ain't gonna be no deep sea fishing. We'll have to stay on the dock with the old people here. Hold it. What are you doing here? What? What about the other foot? There ain't no sock on it. I'll get to it. Don't you know that the whole world puts on a sock and a sock and a shoe and a shoe? I like to take care of 1 foot at a time. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. It's just as quick my way. Wait a minute, that ain't the prank. You see what I don't keep doing it. Listen to me. Suppose there's a fire in the house and you got to run for your life. Your way, all you got on is 1 shoe and a sock. My way, you got on a sock and a sock. You see, you're even. Suppose it's raining or snowing outside. Your way, with a sock on each foot, my feet would get wet. My way, with a sock and a shoe on 1 foot, I could hop around and stay dry.
They both got really good points. This is like the original Seinfeld for people who grew up, in my generation and thought that Seinfeld, the show that was just arguing about something like this, was somehow novel. That's a Seinfeld bit right there, 100%. That's where it came from, right? Stuff like that. And both are good points, but one of them is for serial killers, is my argument. And the problem is the other one is for regular people. All of you put your socks on first and then your shoes on. I know you do. Because if I saw someone doing that, I would act like Archie Bunker did, and I would yell at Meathead too. I'd be like, dude, what's wrong with you? You're not right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start finding crucified mice, and then after that, we're going to start looking for bodies in your backyard with the ground penetrating radar. So let's just head this off right now. Let's put you on the list that we're watching. All right. Again, like the show if you guys like what we're about here. We can't be totally serious all the time because the world is so dark that we would otherwise end up crying. And if you're going to put your feet on the ground every morning, and whether you put your socks on first or your sock and your shoe on first, if you're going to keep walking forward, you got to be a little bit hopeful, which means you're going to have a little bit of this gallows humor, which we continue to have. I've actually got another palate cleanse for you. That was actually just like sort of an evidence of that I might be slipping and falling into some crazy patterns, and I hope I'm not. Here's the real palate cleanser for you. And it has an alignment with what we talked about. There are American values that are not garbage. We care about people. We care about individual citizens as a Western civilization that I think reached the peak and the pinnacle of hope. The most hopeful people in Europe, in the old country, came to the United States for possibilities. That's what we talked about yesterday when we talked about the task and the purpose and the mission that exists in America. We protect women and children instinctively. We know that's the right answer. And the reason why is because we care about the future. Women represent the potential of the future and bring the future about, and children are, in fact, that future. Okay? So that's a Western thing. And I found this little clip, which I find quite funny. I think you will find it as well. And it shows you that other countries do not value human life. And I will include Somalia in that, but this one is specifically about China. Other countries don't consider people individually to be of value just because they exist. And that is a fundamentally Christian position to hold. Whether you're a Christian or not, if you think people matter just because they exist, that's a Christian position. That's where you got it from. Nobody else did. What about the poor? Who cared about the poor before Christianity? Not really anybody. They just assumed they were poor because they were fallen out of favor of God or the gods. That's why you were poor, because you suck and because the gods knew it. We don't do that. Marxism cares about the individual worker and the proletariat and all the people, right, that are out there in the working class that are struggling. Why do they care about them? Oh, because Christianity developed. You do not get Marxism without Christianity first. And so this palate cleanse is something just kind of fun for you guys to laugh about, but also consider. Other countries' history proves to us that we care about the individual in a way that nobody else does. And that's why this country continues to be the best, even when it sucks. And it doesn't nearly hold the sort of same luster or shine that it used to. But that's kind of why I think the MAGA appeal, as much as I think it's dumb, and I think that it's been, co-opted by another group of people. I do think the idea of making it great again, it aspires to the things that made this place great, which is individualism and individual success, and focusing on that mission that we talked about yesterday and making sure that task and purpose are aligned. Here's a funny little clip about Chinese history versus American history. This is inherently correct for all of history. It doesn't have to just be China.
Hey, America, I'm learning about your history and just heard about the Boston Massacre. How many people died? The British killed 5 people. Just 5 million people? Just 5 million? No, just 5 people. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Why did you call it a massacre if it's just 5 people? We define anything above 4 deaths as a massacre. What would you have called it? I don't know, the Boston interaction? That's not history. I would never recorded that. I've lost millions of more people and have way less dramatic titles than the Boston Massacre. Okay, wait, I'm starting to put things together. How many people died in the Gangzhou disagreement? 40 million. 40 million people. Okay, what about when you're talking about that Guangdong disagreement? Did anybody die there? Yeah, like 300 million people died, and then like 40% of all habitable land got destroyed. You have to be making this up. 300 million men, women, and children died? No, you said people, right? No, 300 million men died. Yeah. No, you said people is wild. Yeah, they are wild. Women. What are you gonna do? Just throw them out. That's what I say.
Yikes, right? Every other country, every other culture looks at people differently. I'll take them at their word. I think that's a very humorous way of saying exactly what I said yesterday. Isn't that kind of funny? Sometimes these things pop up. China does not screw around. It also does not value women. And it also does not care about masses of people dying, which is why we are different and we should aspire to better. And if you come here and you act like garbage, we should throw you out and we should have our FBI investigate you and not go after autistic guys living with mom. That's what I have to say. Thanks for listening today. It's Thursday, December the 11th. Go out and do something nice for somebody who doesn't expect it. We're going to try to do what we can do here. If you are a listener and you're a subscriber to the channel, do not forget, tonight will be the call-in program. If you're listening later on in the day and you're like, oh, what time is the call-in program? 8 p.m. Eastern time. That's 7 p.m. here in Texas, America, where it really counts. That's when I sit at the desk. And from 7 to about 9-ish or about thereabouts, we'll take your calls. Wool is me. It's just me and the rest of the audience in the chat. Take the calls. We'll talk about what you guys want to talk about. And you guys do a great job of bringing interesting topics to me and making me laugh. So thank you for what you do. I always start tired and I'm like, it's a call-in show. I'm already tired, and I always leave more energized because of you, the audience. So a big thank you. Look forward to seeing you guys this evening. Have a great day for however long you're listening. God bless.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.